Mi gente. Llévalo por el oído. Duro. Duro. Más duro.
We made a mistake. There's no getting around it. We had to have a revolution, and all those people I had been fighting were now my friends.
What are you talking about?
This is the first show I've got to record since the passing of Steve Jobs, which occurred a little over a week ago now. I really enjoyed the cover of the New Yorker magazine this week, which had Steve approaching the pearly gates of heaven and St. Peter checking him in on an iPad. I thought that was quite clever. Well, today I'm going to be talking with someone who used to be in computer programming and did a lot of digital ad advertising in London and in California and building websites. And if you listen to the interview, which I know you will hear one section where he tells a story about how he went on to learn programming himself because he always did everything on a Mac. And he couldn't figure it out how to do some of the technical aspects and always had to go to the tech guys. And they would say, oh, it's because you're on a Mac. Well, he learned programming himself, went on to write code, do well in advertising, and now Jeremy Chin has published his first book, and it's called Fuel. Like Steve Jobs, who dropped out of school and had the fuel to go on and start Apple or build a Macintosh computer, Jeremy Chin has had the gusto to quit his career in advertising, take a 2-year sabbatical, and write a book, something that he's always wanted to do. And the story is very similar about a young man who wants to pursue marathon running and win. We're going to have Jeremy Chin on Skype from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Beautiful city. When we come back. This is Big Talk with Kory. You're listening to BreakThruRadio.com. Need energy to run, so I figure we'll start off with Energy of Death, Apostle of Hustle, here on BTR.
Fucking fight when we bring
Good afternoon. You're tuned into Book Talk with Kory, and we have all the way from Malaysia, Jeremy Chin, on Skype with us today to talk about his maiden voyage, Fuel, his first book that's received quite a bit of press that I've been looking around online. You've gotten some respect in the local market, which is good because I know you were frustrated with that, and then some other spreadings out towards London and now in New York. And we're going to talk about Fuel in a little bit, Jeremy, but I wanted to start off with first thanking you for coming on Skype with me right now, and second of all, welcome you to the show. So thanks a lot for being on.
No, it's great that you're having me on, and really feel honored to actually be on your show. And at this stage, as a self-published author, I definitely need every bit of help I can get to get the word out on my book. So,
well, we're going to try and spread it as much as we can. Where are you in Kuala Lumpur right now?
Yes, I'm in Kuala Lumpur.
What time is it there?
It's 11 p.m. here.
Well, thanks a lot for spending your Friday night on the phone with me. Jeremy, you have lived quite an interesting life. You were born in Malaysia, so you are Malaysian, but you did attend college in Missouri here in the U.S. You've gone back and forth. You were in California for a little bit. You've done a stint in London. You in programming and now a writer. So talk to me about, rather than the computer software programming background, talk to me a little bit about your relationship with writing and how you came to find a passion for the written word, something that you've now gone on to achieve in print.
Well, as far as writing is concerned, before writing this book, I had never worked a day as a writer. Yes, I was always surrounded by writing from the time I was a young boy, being that my mom herself is a writer, but on a part-time basis. And in attending school at the University of Missouri, which is well known for its journalism program, I was just always surrounded by good writing. And so over time, I just ended up being known as the guy who would be very good at shooting out one-liners, sort of like smart headlines and things like that. So yeah, over the course of working, no matter what I was doing, whether I was a programmer or a designer, somehow copywriting work just happened to come across my desk.
Now, there was one review I read, a local review, that referred to a story about a childhood experience where you were hit in the head in a workshop. Was that true? Is that true? And then it's sort of like
more like metal shop. And I had a friend who was banging away at this piece of metal, and the rubber head of the mallet just flew off the handle. It actually bounced once on the table right before it hit my head. And then from that point on, there was quite a bit of character change.
That's incredible.
And slowly I moved to the back of the class. And they started calling me this term, they call it Penglipo Lara, which is in Malay means storyteller. So a group would start to congregate around me whenever we had a free period, and I'd be just telling stories.
That's incredible, man. That's a fascinating story. Well, I'm glad that you came to be a storyteller and share your stories with us, like the one that we're going to talk about in a little bit. There was another question I wanted to ask you about your own personal career, and that is your experience with computers, the .com boom. You've done some programming. It said that you were in California for a while where you designed websites and sat in front of a screen writing code for hours on end. I've had discussions with either writers on this show, computer programmers who I work with outside of this show, and just general friends around the coffee shop. And I want to get your own personal opinion on whether you think writing code is a creative piece of art, or do you think it's pure technical and you don't buy into the fact that writing a brilliant piece of software or writing a really beautiful digitally designed website is as creative as writing a book? Did you find similarities between writing code and writing Fuel?
That is a great question, because when you are programming, there are so many ways to arrive at the same solution. So, most programmers, when they start out, these are the kids who, by the time they're 6 years old, they've completely taken apart their computer and built it into a microwave oven and things like that. That's the normal programming people that you get out there. So programmers, they've known all their lives that this was the life for them. That wasn't really the case with me. I went into design first, and what happened was I kind of plateaued and said to myself, what else could I learn to better myself? And I've got a pretty funny story around that as well, because in the company I was working at, I was the only guy on a Macintosh. And whenever I had computer problems and I'd go to the programmer guys or the networking guys for help, they'd always say, see, that's what happens when you're on a Mac. So what happened was, I started taking these night classes in programming and networking. I said, yeah, let me go learn what they know so that I never have to go talk to them again. And so it was a mixture of career progression, a mixture of not wanting to deal with these people who were always giving me a hard time about being on a Mac. And so suddenly, I became a designer who was programming, and senior programmers, they'd look at my code and they'd say, wow, I've never seen it done this way before. And yeah, it's because I think as a designer, you think differently. When I was programming, I always programmed with the design in mind, or what the user interface would look like. So I designed code in a way where, hey, I could swap out elements because I knew this is what users would want. People would like to change their profile picture all the time. So let me program my code in such a way that you can actually swap stuff out.
Right. And then you use the same method in Fuel, where you took different perspectives on situations, on scenarios.
Okay, as far as the whole crafting of Fuel, I don't think it was really impacted a lot by my years in programming.
Okay.
Although there is a bit towards the end, actually on the final page of the book. If you show that to any network programmer and you tell them, look at this page and see if something jumps out of you, I say 90% of them will spot it. So what I've done is actually to commemorate all my years in programming, I said, hey, what can I do with this book to actually pay tribute to that part of my life? So yeah, I've embedded a piece of code.
That's
in the form
interesting.
of numbers.
That's so
on the
interesting.
final page.
I'll have to take another look at that. But I'm going to ask you one more question about your own personal life before we take a break and then come back to talk about Fuel. And that is your very conscious decision to abandon the advertising life that you were living in pursuit of becoming a writer. You've been quoted numerous times in saying that in order to change careers in the method that you did, you had to fulfill 3 criteria. And I'll let the listeners know what those criteria for Jeremy were. It was, number 1, Jeremy must enjoy what he's going to do. Number 2, he must be really good at it. And number 3, it must be able to pay the bills. So that's a very scientific formula to a very drastic life change. How did you come across that, Jeremy?
Well, it was just purely out of practicality, because when I left my job, I did not really know what it was I was going to be doing. I did not leave it to write this book. Working in advertising, I just knew that the path I was on was not it. So if I knew that it was a dead end, why continue on that road? So I said, hey, let me jump first and take some time off to sort things out. And it was at that point in time that I said, okay, I've got a real opportunity here to set my life on the right path, so let's not screw it up. So I sat down and I drafted out these 3 criteria. And basically the 3 again are that, number 1, it's got to pay the bills, because I was looking for a new career, not
Right.
a new hobby. So I had to pay the bills, and then number 2, I wanted to enjoy doing it. But just because you enjoy doing something, it does not necessarily mean that you are good at it, and vice versa as well, because some people, they may enjoy going to the karaoke, but they're just not good at it. So
Yeah, that's a great example.
So for me, unless all 3 criteria were met, that wasn't the career choice for me. I had a few I had lots of things run through my head. I think I had about 20 different ideas, and somehow they just did not fulfill all three. Sadly, where writing was concerned, the making a living out of it part, that's still yet to be fulfilled. But I told myself that if I poured everything I had into it, that I actually would stand a pretty good chance of making a career out of it. So,
well, we're trying to push that for you here too, and get your book spread out a little bit more internationally. So we'll try and do that. We're going to take a short break, Jeremy. We're going to listen to a band called Bell and Sebastian from Scotland, and I wanted to play this song because it's called Middle Distance Runner. So we're going to play that song, and when we come back, we will get into Fuel, talk about that a little bit. You're listening to Book Talk with Kory here on BreakThru Radio.
Take a second of the day to think about the things that we have done this year. The dog lies down the pouring rain. I'm underneath the smokers' railway arch again. The future's looking colourful. It's the colour of blood, chaos and corruption of a happy soul will ride in the field, right in the field, right in the field, till the rain dies down. The railway ticket states a destination, but it doesn't mean we will show home. There's a fork up on the line, pay the guard to wait to sign, off we go. The future's looking wonderful, it's a wonder of a businessman's conspiracy to sell you as no one cares, oh you care right now. Give yourself a headache, boy. So I spent the day in stories and in dreaming of the time we're on stage. Have you seen the loneliness of a middle distance runner when he stops a race and looks around? I left the stage, you've seen it now. I walk to the station. Walk to the station. Walk to the station. Won't you follow me down? Walk to the station. Walk to the station. Walk to the station. Won't you follow me?
That was Bell and Sebastian here on BreakThruRadio.com. This is Book Talk with Kory, and we have got Jeremy Chin on Skype from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's late in the night for him. It's early in the morning for me. And we've been talking about his transition from a computer programmer to advertising to being a writer. And now we're going to talk about his freshman novel, Fuel, which is a book about a young creative director who's doing well in an advertising agency in London and has a dream to not only compete in the New York City Marathon, but actually win it. And it would be his debut race as well. And it's sort of mixture between a love story and marathon running, as well as just your very important life lessons that come across this. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about, Jeremy, is your inspiration for this story, from what I have read, came from something you heard in London, where a young woman, or well, I don't know that she was young, but a woman found the fuel to lift a car, to pull her son out, and that got you thinking about, wow, what kind of energy or fuel do we have locked up inside of us? Is that an accurate story? Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's how it all started.
And then how did you translate that to marathon running?
Well, what it was I wanted to look at situations where something like the human spirit could actually defy the laws of science. So I came up with marathon running because when you run a marathon, what normally happens is you expend almost all your energy. And then I started to ask the question about whether someone who had run out of all their energy could actually run with just pure heart. And that's why I picked marathon running as a platform to convey my story.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, too, about the main character is he's got this, like, secret passion for the marathon. He's trained his whole life for it. He seems to have all this scientific plan on how to conserve energy for the big run. But it's also then draws upon what is not the science, the intangible, the just pure gut and emotion to pull this extra energy out of somewhere else. And that's mirrored, of course, with the love story. So would you say it's a fair assessment to say that true success, whether it be in love, in marathon running, or in life in general, is a mix between the scientific approach to things as well as the intangibles, the things that we can't really put our finger on but just provide us with this fuel?
Definitely. The human mind is just so powerful. You know, a great example of that actually is just my whole process of writing this book. It's when you actually find something that you believe in and something that you're passionate about, you can just go on, and suddenly you've got a whole new level of energy. So when I was writing Fuel, I pretty much wrote from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., breaking just for maybe lunch and pee stops, you know? And I did that for a year. And the amazing thing is I could do that day in and day out and not feel tired at all. In fact, most of the time, after the lights went out, I still continue to write using the backlight of my phone, or you know, I'd write on scraps of paper, receipts, envelopes, you know, whatever I could find. So yeah, I could just go on and on and on. Whereas if you look at the person who works their regular full-time job, you know, quite often by the time say 6 or 7 p.m. comes around, you are just completely gone, you know.
Yeah. In saying that, in comparing your own challenges and your own approach to writing the novel, and the fact that the protagonist does work in advertising in London, a question I wanted to ask you is, how autobiographical is Timmy to you?
Very.
Entirely, but...
It wasn't done on purpose. It just happened to be what I was familiar with. You know, people often ask me, they're like, hey, before you wrote this book, you were a creative director, so is Timmy you? And my answer to them actually is that almost every character in the book is a bit of me. Even Cambria in the book, the woman he falls in love with.
Right.
I mean, a lot of her is actually taken from me as well. It was just stuff I was very comfortable with. So yeah, I just went with what I knew.
And with both Timmy and Cambria, there's a sense that these two, although the reader, as a reader, you're rooting for them, we really want them to succeed. There is a sense that they do have flaws. They're not flawless characters. They are human. There's very human elements to both of these people. Is it important for you to try and stay as close to the truth when writing? I don't know what you're working on now, so I know that Fuel is your first book, and I haven't been able to compare it to anything else. But do you get annoyed when you read it yourself, when you read a piece of literature where it seems like the characters aren't human, like they're too perfect? And is it important to you to keep your characters on that straight line?
I've had some people come up to me and say someone like Timmy would never exist in the world. And the truth is, I think, a guy like Timmy is hard to come by, but I've met one or two in my life before. Mm-hmm. I once had a boss, Ken Wiseman, really nice guy, smart guy, eloquent, charming. He had built a beautiful home with his own bare hands. Mm-hmm. Rich, successful, an artist. He could carve ice, could carve dragons the size of your living room, and on top of that, where if we compare him to Timmy, he had set some world records as well, because he had won the triple Ironman championship, I think 3 times in a row. So when they say, hey, someone like Timmy does not exist, I'm like, yes, they do.
Yeah, they totally do.
It's just they're rare, but they do exist. And the character that I had set up, I had wanted to show to readers that, sometimes you may have someone who has everything you could possibly want and still have nothing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And yet, that's exactly it, too, right? Like, you can be chasing something. Well, that's what the marathon is chasing at times, a trivial pursuit, in a way. But another question I want to ask you, in reading some of the reviews and then reading the book itself, it's very obvious that this book is international. It plays on 2 of the largest cities in the Western world anyways. He's in London and is competing in the New York City Marathon, and you've lived in the U.S., you've lived in London, now you're in Malaysia. Mm-hmm. Do you find that locally is it accepted to write on these international scales? Do you find local reviewers sort of scoring you a little bit for not writing about Malaysia, about the Malay people, about Kuala Lumpur? I know from what I read, it was a very conscious decision to write for an international market. I'm just wondering how that has been received in the book sort of clubs and book talks going on in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, I do kind of absolutely despise some of the close-mindedness that I encounter over here in Malaysia, because there are some pretty prominent people in the literary community who would not read my book because it was not set in Malaysia.
That's incredible.
And some people who are like, it's not set in Malaysia, it won't work. That's one thing. And the other is the fact that it's a work of fiction. Mm-hmm. Oddly, if you write a work of fiction in Malaysia, publishers will almost automatically turn you down.
Wow.
Which was why I decided very early on to just go the self-publishing route. I mean, if you wrote a book about, say, how to be a millionaire, or a book on feng shui, or even a cooking book, they take a look at your work. If you write fiction, they'd say, sorry, not interested.
That's incredible. Especially now with the fact that anyone in the world can buy a book through Kindle or, on their iPad or their tablet. Like the whole sales, the whole marketing of literature's gone, it's totally global. And you would think that a publishing house in Malaysia would recognize that and say, just because you are writing in Malaysia doesn't mean there's an entire international market that they can push these books through easily too, without printing and sending them and FedExing them or shipping them all over the world. You can just put them on Kindle and build a good website to advertise for them.
Yeah, it is a real pity. And I don't know, part of me sees myself as a torchbearer to try and make something of this, just so that other people, hopefully the local publishers, would start recognizing that, hey, there are genres outside of what is currently popular that they could actually push and turn a profit on. You know? So, yes.
Well, Jeremy, I'll ask you one last question before I let you go and rage into the night, or maybe it's going to be writing by the phone of your of your BlackBerry or iPhone when we get off here. But the final question I have for you is: this was your debut novel. It's been, anything I came across, has been received very well by the literary community internationally, and even from some of the reviews I read in Kuala Lumpur or Malaysian book markets. And the next question, or the final question I want to ask you, is what do we expect next from Jeremy Chin? Is there something you're working on? Can you divulge a little bit for us? Are you already halfway through your second? What's going on for you?
Well, right now, the book's not really paying the bills, and I had taken 2 years off and poured everything I've had into this. So in the meantime, what has happened was my wife has, between us, we've been able to kind of like break even, every month. Till the book can actually finance my next one, I'd probably be returning to full-time employment until this thing hopefully finds some sort of success. If it doesn't, then I guess I'll probably just have to I just have to save up again, and then see if I'd be able to finance another year or two of writing. Yeah.
Well, that's motivation for our listeners to click on the link that's on the playlist, go visit Jeremy's website, buy a copy of Fuel, whether it be an e-copy for your Kindle or however you're reading books, or get a hard copy ordered through Amazon to you. Get out and help support Jeremy. Buy Fuel, an excellent read about marathon running, the pursuit of dreams, love story. Jeremy, thanks so much for coming on the phone tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great talking to you, and thanks for having me on.
All right, you're tuned into Book Talk with Kory. This has been Jeremy Chin talking Fuel. We'll be back.
Love sick on a sunny afternoon. You are tired of staying in. You are waiting for a sign. Mayfly woken up when skies are clear. I don't mind you coming near. Give me company till she comes again. You are the one who's making do. I am the one who's privy to. 'Cause you saw him in the park. 'Cause you saw him at the bridges with the people in the dark. Okay, now was the start of something big. You were there in the beginning. You were there to see him play. Mayfly woken up when skies are blue. I don't mind the sight of you. Keep me company till she comes again. You are the one who's making do. I am the one who's privy to. 'Cause you saw him at the celebration, standing at the side. You had the move to save the day, and you would love him anyway. Said you came back upon yourself. You are the one left on the shelf. You are incapable of playing the fool. Longing for what's different today. You sent the boy and girl away. You are concerned with matters lofty, but puzzled so it makes you sick. Your diary's looking like the Bible, with its verses lost in time, lost in meaning for the people who surround you. It's a crying shame. You know it's a crying shame. You know it's a crying shame. Mayfly woken up when skies are blue. I don't mind the sight of you. Keep me company till she comes again. Mayfly woken up when skies are clear. I don't mind you coming near. Keep me company till she comes again. La 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 la, she comes again. La 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 la, she comes again. La 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 la.
Jeremy Chin took a big leap there, took 2 years off of professional life to write his book. Let's try and support him by getting them. Purchase a book, click on the link. Let's wait for his next one to come out. Not much more to say. I'm running out of fuel myself. Gotta find where I store that extra bit of energy. Marathon running, dream pursuing, and chasing love. That's what fuel is. That's what Jeremy Chin had to offer. Great conversation. We're gonna end with another little running song. This is Run, Devil Run by Jenny Lewis. And BreakThru Radio, Book Talk with Kory. Have a great weekend.
Run.